Good morning. It's good to see all of you. Welcome to our worship service at First Unitarian Society in Ithaca. Here we gather, nurturing our connections, seeking inspiration, and welcoming the light and warmth of spring, even though we're getting a little bit more rain today, but hopefully you enjoyed the light we had yesterday. My name is Magdalene Lindeberg, and I'm your celebration associate this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, those of you who are here in person and watching online. It is so good to be together today. Please check our website for more information on how to create connections. If you'd like to receive updates describing opportunities for engagement, please email a request to office@uuithaca.org. Newcomers are specially invited to visit our website and complete a newcomer form on the homepage. Our service this morning is being live streamed from our sanctuary in downtown Ithaca and will be available for viewing later on our YouTube channel. We now have a couple announcements from our Director of Religious Exploration, Emily Richards, and that will be followed by a brief announcement about the music from Stephanie Ortolano.
Good morning. I am unsurprisingly going to talk to you a little bit about RE for this month and next. So we have a lot going on. As spring is sprung, we are growing new things too. And I want to talk about a couple areas where you, sitting here in this room, and you at home can help. So first of all, we need RE team members. And in a lot of ways, this is the easiest job. So really, you show up once a month for a meeting. We talk about the amazing things we would love to do together. We make a plan, and then you can decide if there are any of those things that would work for your schedule to fill in and help with. Helping find recruits, helping maybe do setup, doing creative things, it's up to you. In 2 weeks, we are going to be having our spring celebration at Stewart Park following services, and I'm definitely going to need some extra hands that Sunday. If you get great joy in feeding people, since this is an outside event, we would love for people to make food and bring drinks for us to share together. If you love the idea of maybe making or bringing some decorations, that would be a help. Or if you have ideas for activities, I'm guessing there might be some eggs, but this is a celebration of the many spring festivals. So ideas for Passover, Ramadan, Astera, all of this is welcome. We are returning to some of our in-person in the building programming next Sunday, and the last Sunday we'll be upstairs in the arch room together, and I need volunteers for that as well. And for those people who have done it recently, it's a lot of fun. We built Legos together last week, and we made a collaborative art project. And then in May, we are starting up a program that happened in the past called Mystery Buddies. And I need young people to sign up to have a new friend that they are going to have some notes back and forth with all month and get to know each other. And then we're going to have a big outdoor celebration to meet those friends. And I would love some creative people to think about making a special mailbox for the parlor where people can slip their notes in and pick up their notes. On a completely different topic, I would like to invite anyone in our community that is not yet a member but has been thinking about it, or maybe hasn't even considered it until this very moment, to join us for a new member ceremony. We're still figuring out a date that works for our new members, but if you would like to be included, you can email me. Regardless of how long you've been joining us or in what capacity, we would be overjoyed to have you become an official member of our community. Because here you are welcome. Here you belong. Thank you.
Good morning. And Emily forgot to mention one of the reasons membership is kind of important right now, it's kind of signing the book, is so that you can vote in our annual meeting, which is at the end of May. So you have to be a member in the book for 30 days before that membership meeting happens in order to be able to vote. And there's some important things coming up that you might want to be part of. I want to welcome Gemma MacArthur this morning as our guest cellist. Some of you may recognize her from Unirondac. Her grandma, Jane, is a longtime member of our choir and member of our community. And I had the pleasure of accompanying Gemma at her Book 2 recital last weekend and said, oh, please share your music with everybody here on Sunday morning. And I'm so glad she's here to do that. The piece that she played for Prelude was Bourrée by Handel. She's going to play a piece by Bach for our offertory, the Musette from English Suite number 3. And the postlude will be Witch's Dance by Paganini.
And I have one last announcement. You can honor someone's memory with spring flowers for our April 17th service. These flowers will decorate the sanctuary during the April 17th service, and when the service is over, you can take the plant home, or we can arrange to give it to someone who would appreciate it. A list of individuals honored in this way will be listed in the order of service. Flowers can be ordered through the link in the weekly announcement or by contacting office@uuithaca.org. And I will now light the chalice, and you can join me in saying the chalice lighting words. These are printed in the order of service. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Streid-Mullen, and it is really good to be back with you all again. It's also great as we take small steps back towards normal or a new normal, so it's great to see everybody this morning. The opening words this morning are from James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced.
I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join us in our opening hymn, number 348, Guide My Feet. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Hello again. I am so grateful to be here with you this morning. This month, we're talking about awakening and how it is central to our faith. To awaken means to wake up, and we can wake up in more ways than simply opening our eyes in bed each morning. It can also mean a revival of interest, attention, recognition, a realization, or coming into awareness of something. And this understanding of what it means to awaken is deeply connected to one of the main aspects of being a UU, which is transformation. We are a transformational people. And when we allow ourselves to awaken to something new, we are also transforming our perception and understanding of ourselves and the world around us, something that is a core tenet of our faith. Today we're going to talk about awakening to the many ways that injustice gets into our world. Anyone notice what I have up front here? And at this point, I always forget there are people here, there are young people. If any of the young people would like to come up, I'm actually going to need some help today. So if you'd like to come on up, or anyone who's feeling young at heart and likes to be a helper. So what do we notice I have not in my wonder box, in my glass vase? Can everyone see it? I'm going to come hold it up for you. Yeah. Come on. I heard someone say soil. I've got some dirt, some earth. You can hang out right here. You're going to be my helpers today? All right. So, and then there's some other stuff in the wonder box, and I'm going to turn it around. Maybe. Allie and Gwen, can you hold up some of the things in there? I'm going to reach in and grab something and hold it up so people can see. Go ahead. There's a whole bunch of things in here. It's not just those two. I've got a bunch more colors, and I have a little bowl, and I have a spoon, too. So, for thousands of years, Native Americans have lived on this land. And then the Europeans came. And the Europeans thought they had a better way of doing things. And when they came to the Americas, they brought these different ways with them. First, they came and took the land, and they became owners of the land rather than sharing it. They took over and controlled the land, and the native peoples, many of them died, they were hurt, they were forced to live in ways that were very different from what they were used to. There's a really big word that is often used for controlling the land and the people who live on it, and it's called colonization. And they added colonization to the soil. All right. Would one of you like to grab one of these and dump colonization onto our soil? Here, you want one? Want this one? Go ahead, dump the whole thing in. All of it. Pour it on. All right, good job. So these Europeans also brought a new way of being together. This way of being together would not allow women to own property, have jobs, or even vote. And this way of being together is called patriarchy. And patriarchy is a fancy word for the idea that men are better than women. And they added patriarchy to the soil. You want to grab one, Allie? Other friends, too, if you feel like you want to dump some sand in the soil, like now is your chance to come on down here and grab one. All right, so, oh good, I've got a taker. So then, these Europeans decided that while the land was rich and grew a lot of things, that they could grow even richer themselves by forcing others to work for them. So the Europeans brought slavery to America. And they forced people from Africa and other parts of the world onto ships and brought them across the ocean. They made them work the land without money, and they added slavery to the soil. Go ahead, Gemma. Dump it on. Over time, other things were added to the soil as well. And these things include, you want to term it, Anna, not letting people love who they want. Want to grab it? Go ahead, dump it on. Yeah. What was this for? This was for not letting people love who they want. All right, go back to the beginning. We have not helping people who are disabled. You want to grab another one? There we go. Oh, I'm going to run out of room here. We have making it difficult for poor people to earn money. I had to start dumping in half a thing. I overestimated. All All right, Gemma, you want to grab another one? We have making voting difficult for poor people and people of color. Okay, give us a good layer at least. We've got 2 more. I think we can fit at least half of those jars. All right, so my next one is putting people in prison for little problems or for being poor. And we've got 1 more. You want to do it? And this is polluting. Thank you, Gemma. You ought to do it all together. When asked if they want to do it all together. So this one is for polluting our soil, air, and water. So now, you might have noticed that I held up a little bowl and a spoon. You can all kind of help with this too. Ready? You want a little bowl, Gemma? So the words that I use for all these things is supremacy. And that's a big word that means a small group of people get to control many of the different things in our world and make it difficult for people who are not like this small group to live differently. Now, some of these things that were added to the soil were changed over a long time. Women are now allowed to vote and hold jobs, and there is no longer slavery. Can you take a little bit of the sand out for me? Can you try to scoop the sand out? See how much you can get out. Like, give it a good try. Can we actually get... Yeah, but we're seeing these things still exist, just in different ways. In many states, women still cannot do what they want with their bodies. Slavery as it existed 200 or 400 years ago no longer exists, but it has taken on new forms, as people are still paid poorly or not at all in this country. Rich people are getting richer, and poor people are getting poorer. And all of these things are still in our soil. And as you can see, what happens as my friends here valiantly attempt to take these things out of our soil is they just shift, and they mix together, and they trickle down into the dirt. All right, thank you, friends. You did a valiant effort there. So how can we grow good food and other things with all these bad things in our soil? How can we be healthy if we can't grow good food or have good things in our lives? And what can we do to get to the good soil? Because as our friends are seeing, it's not that easy. So this is hard work. It's hard because the sand is small and it gets into everything. But if we recognize it when we see it, and we realize that we want to be healthy and live in a world where everyone is cared for, we need to do this work of removing the sand. The best way to do this is to do it together, so that we can plant seeds of love and justice in the world. It can feel hard just to talk about it, let alone live with it. So I want to invite you to do a brief meditation with me. It's going to be a breath meditation to awaken our awareness of our bodies, our breath, our connection to one another, and this world. And you can do it sitting or standing. So the first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to talk you through it, and then I'm going to come out and we're just going to do it together. So we're going to take our arms out wide, and we're going to breathe in, and we're going to bring our hands into our core like this. We're going to breathe out and make a big chalice with our hands like this. Send all the energy up. We're going to breathe back in and bring our hands to heart center. This time when we breathe out, we're going to send all that love out to one another in front of us like this. Into heart center one more time. And this time we're going to release it down into that earth we were just talking about like this. All right, I'm going to come out now where you can see me, and we're going to do it together 2 more times. Thank you, friends.
All right, who moved the sheet? 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 In the spirit of reverence, love, and care, we take time now to bear witness to some of the joys and sorrows of our community. We want to share those events that call for our prayers and support, our praise and celebration. This morning, Patty Bergman and David Wenzel are happy to announce the birth of their second grandchild, Zoe Tasman Spadaro. She was born on March 18th, and her family is thrilled. I have a joy. It may not mean much to everyone, but I know there's some people in here that will be as happy as I am that Carolina beat Duke in the basketball game last night. For those we may be holding in our thoughts, in our hearts, and perhaps in our prayers, let us call these names out loud into this community and space of healing and hope right now. We extend loving kindness to all in our world, and let us not forget to extend loving kindness to ourselves. Today, tomorrow, and beyond, let our hands be outstretched in kindness, and let us keep showing up to our lives and each other with an open heart, no matter what. Love and courage to us all. Blessed be, and amen.
This is a meditation on hope and love in a time of struggle by Alice Anacheka Nasman. In a world so filled with brokenness and sorrow, it would be easy to lose ourselves in never-ending grief, to be choked by our outrage, to be paralyzed by the enormity of suffering, to feel our hearts squeezed tight with hopelessness. Instead, this morning, let us simply breathe together as we hold our hearts open, breathing in as our hearts fill with compassion, breathing out as we pray for healing in our world and in our lives, breathing in, opening ourselves to the transforming power of love, breathing out as we pray for peace in our world and in our lives, breathing in as we hold hope in our hearts, breathing out as we pray for justice in our world and our lives. May we know our strength. May we be filled with courage. May our love flow from us into this world. Amen. Blessed be, and may it ever be so.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. The giving information is shown in the order of service. For those watching remotely, the text number and website will appear on your screen during the offertory music and in the information below the live stream image on YouTube. Giving to the plate is important. It's a symbol of our gratitude for this service and our ongoing commitment to support the work of this church. So please take a moment and give through either the text option or the giving button on the church website. If you're attending in person and would prefer to write a check, you can place your offering in the box by the door when you exit after the service. It's so awesome to have a guest musician. Please join me in saying the offertory words printed in your order of service. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond.
The reading this morning is by Cornel West from his book, Race Matters. In these downbeat times, we need as much hope and courage as we do vision and analysis. We must accent the best of each other, even as we point out the vicious effects of our racial divide and pernicious consequences of our maldistribution of wealth and power. We simply cannot enter the 21st century at each other's throats, even as we acknowledge the weighty forces of racism, patriarchy, economic inequality, homophobia, and ecological abuse on our necks. We are at a crucial crossroads in the history of this nation, and we either hang together by combating these forces that divide and degrade us, or we hang separately. Do we have the intelligence, humor, imagination, courage, tolerance, love, respect, and will to meet the challenge? Time will tell. None of us alone can save the nation or world, but each of us can make a positive difference if we commit ourselves to do so. Sue Roenke will give the first part of this little sermon.
Good morning. I'm going to talk about racism and how educating myself on it has influenced my life and it increased my self-awareness. I grew up in Waterloo, which is a small town north of Ithaca, and it had one family of color, but otherwise very white. When I was 16, I moved to Rochester and attended a high school which had just merged with another high school. There was a high ratio of students of color to white students. One girl was biracial and had a lighter skin tone than most of the other girls of color there, and they didn't let her in their circle of friends, and my thoughts were, of course she belongs with them, not realizing how racist I was in thinking that. When my girls were young, we lived in New Jersey for a year. The church we attended had a white minister, and his white wife had 2 daughters of their own, but they were also foster parents. They mostly had children of color. They told us many stories of how they were mistreated because of this. One time the wife was in a store with some of the kids, and he was out in the back picking up software to the tune of $500. The salesperson was saying something rude to his wife, implying that the children were hers and with a black father. The minister overheard and walked up, put all the products on the counter and said, "We're not buying it." When Barack Obama was running for president, Michelle Obama said, "The realities are that as a black man, Barack could get shot going to the gas station." That really made an impact on me, because as brilliant and poised as a man of color might be, it comes down to the color of his skin. That's it, as to how he may be treated. I read Barack's first 2 books, which is where I had learned that he attended a Unitarian Universalist congregation various times as he grew up. About 10 years ago, I took my younger 2 girls to Boston, and we visited the old UUA headquarters, and I asked them if they knew about Obama, and they did not. A few months later, in the October 2012 issue of the UU World, there was an article about Obama having grown up UU. I continue to read books by people of color, authors, and about racism, as well as attending and hosting Race, the Power of Illusion, and Cracking the Code series and discussions. That's where I learned that race is fake news made up by humans, and science shows that we are all the same. Having said that, even though we are all the same, people of color have not been treated the same, and each one of us, needs to learn about and change our behaviors, and also encourage legislation and defund the police, which doesn't mean what it may sound like. Another book I read was by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, Dexter King. He tells how he and his family, when they were just kids, heard about their father's death on TV, just like everyone else did. I can't imagine the horror of finding out that way for them. I also figured out while reading that book that Dr. King was only 25 years old when he organized the bus boycott. Our young people are where change is going to happen. There are many people who help progress rights for people of color. Some are more famous, like Mr. Rogers. He hosted a policeman of color sharing a kiddie pool with their feet in the same water at the same time when people of color couldn't be in the same public pools as white people. Another is Rosa Parks. She was involved with the NAACP before refusing her seat on the front of the bus, and not because she was tired, but because she was making a protest that resulted in the over-year-long bus boycott. 9 years prior to her protest, Claudette Colvin had done the same, but her case was not publicized because she was unmarried and pregnant. Another of the lesser-known people of color who helped advance BIPOC rights is Pauli Murray, a queer person of color who befriended Eleanor Roosevelt, who in turn helped influence her president husband and others after learning firsthand how many people of color were treated. You can read more about her book in The Firebrand and the First Lady. There's also a movie on Amazon Prime called My Name is Pauli Murray. They were a fascinating person. A while ago, I went to adult salsa dance for the first time. Most of the men there were willing to teach me how to salsa dance when my friend told them that I was new to salsa dancing. One man of color was dancing, and he asked me if I would dance with him, and I said yes, enthusiastically. I had thought before he asked me of how some white people might have treated him if he'd asked them, either ignore him or say something cruel, and I wanted to counter that, even though it was a very small gesture of kindness. I also have made a concerted effort to smile at any people of color I encounter in my life, on the street, in the stores, etc. harder to do wearing a mask, but not impossible. A few years ago, my mother, Dottie, and I took a 7-day trip coming back from Florida and stopped at numerous museums and churches. We stopped at a coffee shop in Selma. It was owned by a family of color. We ordered some food and chatted with them a bit. While we were sitting there in the cafe, an older white couple came in, looked at the menu, looked at the people behind the counter, and walked out. We wondered if it was because the owners were people of color, and that made us sad. In our own congregation, we had Dorothy Cotton as a member. She worked with Martin Luther King Jr., the highest-ranking woman to work with him. She told a story in a service she did here about visiting a school and told the children she was working with him, and one child said, "That must make her really old." She sang songs with the congregation that they sang at the marches and protests. We were very blessed to have her here. One experience I had here in our church that appalled me, I will share. I was talking to a person of color during coffee hour. We both were in barbershop courses. And another person came up to us and asked him if he was related to another person of color. I apologized to him, and he said, "It's not a big deal, it happens all the time." I recognize it as a microaggression, and it would be like asking me if I was related to Dolly Parton just because we're both white. When our congregation started doing the Richmond Living the Pledge workshops, I enthusiastically signed up and was so glad to see many others participating. You can learn more about microaggressions there. We had 4 cohorts so far and plan to have more at future date. I've been the Zoom queen, or the tech support, for 3 of them. Our congregation is not as diverse as I would like, and the more congregants that can commit to this pledge will hopefully help change this. So let's get uncomfortable and do this work for ourselves and others, for the good of all.
As Cornel West says, each of us can make a positive difference if we commit ourselves to do so. The pledge to end racism is a powerful statement. It starts with 2 statements that are central to our Unitarian Universalist principles. I believe that every person has worth as an individual. I believe that every person is entitled to dignity and respect, regardless of race or color. I think that all of us here in the sanctuary or on Zoom share these core beliefs, and that's great. The 3rd statement, I believe that every thought and every act of racial prejudice is harmful. If it is my thought or act, then it is harmful to me as well as to others. Acknowledges the harm that is done with every thought and act of racial prejudice. This is, in fact, a huge statement because it is asserting harm from every thought and every act, regardless of who does it. Race is a strange beast. Scientifically, it does not exist. Any differences between individuals in a given race are large. Race is a myth, a construct. And yet, race has dominated thinking, culture, the U.S. legal system, and daily life for millions of Americans for hundreds of years, including today. The concept of race was constructed largely in the U.S. in the 18th century as a means of justifying the enslavement of people of color, as a means of ensuring free labor to power the economic growth of this new country. Americans applied the concept of racial inferiority to this continent's indigenous peoples as a justification for stealing a continent's worth of land for white people. We offer the Living the Pledge to End Racism workshop to allow participants to learn about the concept and impact of race in this country and in our lives. The workshop is designed to give participants confidence in their ability to talk about and confront racism wherever it lives. The good news is, as I said earlier, that probably none of us is consciously racist. We all want to value folks for who they are and what they do, which is great. That's step 1. But the workshop helps educate us that racism is more than just our personal views. It is more than just being not prejudiced myself. Through presentations, group discussions, and exercises, the workshop helps us open our eyes to see the water we swim in, by which I mean the racist structure of the world around us. White people can easily live daily and even year to year oblivious to their race. This is not true for people of color. We all live in a system that has and does provide us either advantages or privileges because we appear white, or disadvantages because we do not appear white. We are also likely subject to unconscious bias, and for those of us who identify as white, we are likely to make unconscious missteps, called microaggressions, as Sue mentioned, that make folks of color uncomfortable or unwelcome. Several modules in the Living the Pledge workshop cover these: unconscious bias, microaggressions, and historic systemic barriers. These are important, but the point of the workshop is to go further, to help individuals identify what they, what you, what I can do to fight racism. The last lines of the pledge focus on what I will do to fight racism. I will commit to working with others to transform this region into a place that treats people of all races, ethnicities, and cultures with justice, equity, and compassion. We help participants identify what they can do, what they can each do to fight racism. For me, that part of the pledge has several components. Helping to expand the education for folks at FUSIT about racism in terms of helping run the Living the Pledge workshop has been one of my big commitments. So far, about 70 of our congregates have gone through the workshop. While that's a good start, it's actually only 25% of our members, so that is not a very high percentage. Yes, committing 12 hours to the workshop is a big commitment, but it is important, and we, the leadership team, will keep looking at alternate timing that may make it accessible to more of you. And if we're lucky, we may even be able to have it in person next year. So you can contact the office to get on the list of folks interested in upcoming sessions of the workshop. One of the learnings I've had is to not refer to our church as mostly white, as that erases the presence and contribution of those who are not white. Also, we have several folks with non-white racial identities, but who do not scan or who are not visibly non-white, and we want to respect their diversity and honor their contributions. The 2020 UUA report, Widening the Circle of Concern, says, embracing diversity and becoming multicultural is critical, that, quote, what is at stake is nothing less than the future of our faith. I want this place, this sanctuary, to be comfortable as a home to all those who identify with our principles and our liberal faith, and become a true multicultural beloved community. Another commitment I have taken on as part of my pledge is promoting the adoption of the 8th principle, which reads, we affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. As congregations adopt this 8th principle, it would commit us to put into action the first 7 principles in terms of accountably dismantling racism and other oppressions. Ibram X. Kendi succinctly put it, the opposite of racist is not racist, it is anti-racist. What is the difference? Well, they're different on many levels. Not racist is being a good person with progressive ideas and not being personally racist. But this is, quote, not racist person also may not be in action against racism or against the systems that pervade our society and make our society racist. As an anti-racist, we confront racial inequalities and fight them rather than sitting back, quietly being a good person and allowing racism to continue. As the saying goes, white silence is violence. Back to the Living the Pledge workshop. Action. What am I going to do? What are you going to do to help end racism is the crucial thing where the rubber meets the road. Some folks have great but tough opportunities at their workplace to combat racism. For many of us, volunteering, participating in actions others organize, and noticing how we spend and donate our money are proactive avenues for shifting society. Getting involved with voting rights, universal health care, Tompkins County Standing Up for Racial Justice, or SURGE, and tutoring all have important impacts on leveling the playing field for our BIPOC community. Well, I feel like I've done an extended commercial for the Living the Pledge workshop, which I have, because I think getting educated and in conversation about racism is a crucial first step to prepare us to get into action on being anti-racist. As individuals, we need to find anti-racist actions that work for us. And I believe that First Unitarian Society of Ithaca needs to take a stand and get into action against racism. We want to create a healthy, multicultural, beloved community here at FUSIT, one which will enrich the lives and spirituality of ourselves, our community, and our children well into the future.
I invite you to join me and rise in body or spirit to sing our closing hymn in your teal hymnal, number 1028, The Fire of Commitment. The light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of
closing words this morning are from Michelle Obama. Race and racism is a reality that so many of us grow up learning to just deal with. But if we ever hope to move past it, it can't just be on people of color to deal with it. It's up to all of us, black, white, everyone, no matter how well-meaning we think we might be, to do the honest, uncomfortable work of rooting it out. It starts with self-examination and listening to those whose lives are different from our own. It ends with justice, compassion, and empathy that manifests in our lives and on our streets. I pray we all have the strength for that journey.